Hey guys, and welcome to another episode of the Kashif Booth podcast. If you're new here, each week I sit down with a guest and we discuss their career so far, the highs, the lows, and what's next for them. Today's guest is Tao Finkley. He is a creative producer extraordinaire based in Atlanta. Welcome to the show, Tao.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Well, thank you for being on the show. I was just telling you before we hit record that I want you and Casey on the show. So I think I'm interviewing her next week. So yeah, so I had to have you guys on, especially after the relationship we've built within the past year. So guys, you don't know this, but I worked with Tao recently on a short film called Fleeting Moments that we self-funded, put together. Casey and Tao flew all the way from Atlanta, was in London for a month while we shot this in December. And we have our own collective, which is a American slash British black creative film collective called Drift. And we're really excited to be working together on so many more projects as well. And Tao and I recently found out that we're birthday twins. So April 17th in the cut. Okay. So that is, it was funny because we never had a conversation about, oh yeah, what day's your birthday? It just never came up. And then, oh, wait, so how did you find out? I want to know because how did you find out? Because I didn't share it really. I don't really do that on social media.
Same. I'm the same way. I'm like, I'm not kid about my birthday. Casey actually told me, she hit me up today the day after my birthday. It's like, wait, did I miss your birthday? Is it today? I was like, it was yesterday, but no big deal. I don't make a big deal of it. She's like, oh, I think it was Kashi's birthday too. I'm so sorry. Happy belated birthday. And I was like, wait, what? She's like, yeah, I saw him post something about it in his stories. So I went and looked at your stories. I didn't see it anymore. And so that's when I hit you up like, wait a minute, was yesterday your birthday? And I was like, what? Crazy.
I kind of love that. And so I know Tao and I, we look the same age, but we're not. We know black doesn't crack. So we're also that as well.
No.
So
more advanced in years.
But we're both talented producers and we happen to be born on the same day. So I love that I have met a fellow birthday twin. It's very rare. I haven't met a lot in my life. We have the same birthday as Victoria Beckham from Posh Spice.
You know that?
Yes.
Which makes total sense. Her attitude makes sense.
Yeah. And I mean, I love tennis. So there's a tennis player. Well, he's a former tennis player now. He's a black tennis player who's French, and his name is Joe Wilfred Tsonga. So once I found that, I was like, oh yeah, you're my favorite tennis player now. Come on now, we're birthday twins.
Also, is it? Dang it! I was gonna say Lisa Ray, but I don't think it's Lisa Ray. But there's a famous black actress that also has our birthday.
That is.
Also, Jermel Simon. He's on the show The Upshaws on Netflix. He plays the oldest son.
Okay. I love that. See, I love that. So, Tal, your producer, we just worked on a film called Fleeting Moments. What was that like for you? Especially, it was your first time coming to London. And not only were you just coming for London for the shoot, you were here for a month. So, what was it like? Yeah. So, what was it like working with people you had never met before and virtually? How did it feel for you?
So first, I think there was something so organic about the way we all kind of bonded. We had a million Zoom and Google Meetup calls leading up to this over the year, right? So when I got to London and met you and Anita, it just felt natural. I didn't feel like I was meeting a stranger when you pulled up to my flat to meet me that first night. I was like, this is Kashif, my homeboy. It just felt natural. So
yeah.
I was glad that we were able to kind of build that rapport. And I don't even know if we built it. It just felt natural. I don't want to say destined or preordained. I don't want to be all, but there was just something special, I think, about the way we all connected. And that doesn't happen very often. So I really appreciate and cherish that because, being in this business, it gets a little crazy.
Yeah.
So yeah, and coming over, it was a bit of a culture shock, not in a bad way, but it was just, this is my first international production. I've never been to London before. I've been to other parts of Europe, just hadn't been to London. It was cold. I mean, it was cold here, but you guys have a different kind of cold. You have a soul-stealing cold that is not fun.
And you were here in December into January, so that's like the
Yes.
worst. We'll get it from like November to like February. It's horrible.
Yeah, I was telling people when I got back that for the first time since I was a child, and I didn't even do this, my grandmother would do this, but I had to put Vaseline on my skin on top of all my other moisturizers just to keep from cracking open because it was just that crazy. Like my skin wasn't used to that. And also the lack of sunlight, that was an adjustment. You got like 3 hours of sunlight and then it's dark again. So that's crazy.
But daylight saving time, so it was very much like, it was gone by like 3, 4.
Going out at 5 p.m. and it looking like midnight outside, that was very different. And then still having to function and do things. So it took me a little while to adjust to that. But overall, I loved my experience there. You know, I was actually shocked that I loved it as much as I did. I was like, oh, I can't wait to come back.
Well, you are going to come back. We know that. We got so much we're working on. So you're coming back. But I have to ask you this. It's a very controversial question. What did you think of our food? Wow.
So, here's what I will say.
Okay.
The stereotypes and rumors and the gossip mill is all true. British food is terrible. Now, I will say white British food. Sorry, white people.
Thank
your food
you.
Is terrible. There is no soul. I don't know how you people survive. I don't. But so thankfully where I was in Stretton, I lived in a very ethnically diverse See, I'm already British. I was in a very ethnically diverse neighborhood and I loved it. Lots of, Arabs and Asians. Well, Arabs are Asians, but that's a whole other thing. Lots of people of color.
Yeah.
And so there in my area, I ate very well. It was only when we tried certain places out in the city, when I would venture out, I was like, oh no, this is not the work of the Lord. But in my area, there was like 2 blocks away, there was this Turkish place that I ate at quite often. One, because the food was good. They know seasonings and it was very cheap. And they gave me so much food, like for like $8 they gave me enough food to eat like 2 or 3 times off of. Like I would divide the meals because it was just that much. Not like, oh, I'm struggling, I gotta like save this, but it was just so much. So I was there like every day, every other day. And yeah, I'll tell anyone coming to London, coming to UK, just go eat with the people of color, even Greeks, even if they're people of color.
They make amazing food.
Yes. So eat anywhere that is not white and British. If you want good food, I'm just saying.
Thank you for clearing that up because every time you guys are dragging us on social media and we're like, no, okay, don't go to those places. You're not gonna eat well, okay? No. Go here, go to all of these places. Because like when Keith Lee was here, he went to like the white places and then he was like, that's rubbish. And we were like, no, go to the black places, go to the Asian places. And once he went to those places, he was like, oh my gosh, this is so good. I'm like, yes, see, some redemption. Because we do eat well, we do. Okay.
And the white people overcharge you for cardboard. Like they're serving you cardboard and overcharging you.
Exactly. But what did you think of like also like because remember I invited you to my friend's like scratch night of his play just before you left, and I remember you saying that you really enjoyed just like the type of vibe and the just type of event that goes on here. So what did you think of like the creative space that what you saw when you were here?
So that was actually one of the highlights of the trip for me. If you remember when we were talking before we actually came over, I was saying I wanted to do like a mixer kind of situation. That's exactly what I was looking for. Like, I think you got confused that I want to throw some big party. No, but
I knew.
I think that's what Casey thought or something. But that kind of environment was exactly what I was looking for, to see all of these Black creatives working together, like harmonizing, trying to collaborate and supporting each other. I don't feel like we have enough of that here in America. It's so competitive here, In Atlanta, there are pockets of crews like that where you see that kind of support. But in my personal experience, anytime I've been part of a collective like that or in proximity to one, they always fall out because of ego and drama. I can't tell you the number of projects that I've been a part of or help people with that I can't put on a resume now. I can't do anything with because the drama, the egos, it all just went to hell. And they're almost completely finished projects out there on hard drive somewhere. But because egos and, oh, I did this and I own it and you can't share this and you can't use this, the world will never see it. Like literally, I have 10 years worth of stuff that I probably can't put on my resume because I couldn't find a cohesive group. And dang, that kind of sounds like I'm the common denominator. But I'm not the only one in Atlanta that has a story. Plenty of people, some of the people that I know and I work with now, they all have those same stories. So again, that's why I value what you, Casey, Anita, and I have, because we just work, and even when we don't disagree, it's not the end of the world. I mean, even when we don't agree, it's not the end of the world. We talk through it, we find a compromise, or we go with the majority vote, and that's that. You know, it's easy. So I really appreciate and value that. And I really can't wait to get back over there and get, you know, into that scene some more. I met some really, really cool people that night. So thank you for that. And like, I'm still in touch with some of them. So
good.
Really cool.
I love that. Love that. So you have to come back, but I think you guys need to come back when it's not December.
Absolutely.
Because you came back at like the worst. You came over at the worst time where I was like, oh, everything's done. Like Christmas parties were done. Like everything was done. So I was like, there's not much I can really like say. Like, okay, come with me to this guy's, or you know, it was kind of just So
we got there like the first or second week of December, so I thought a lot of that would still be going on, but you guys kind of wrap it up early.
They do it early. Like over here, they will have, and I mean, British culture is drunkenness, so they have like the Christmas parties earlier the better. So a lot of those like Christmas socials, like they do it very, very early in December or late November. So, and because we don't really have like a Thanksgiving like you guys do, it's either like Halloween, then as soon as Halloween's over, you're hearing Mariah Carey on the radio every damn day. So, So yeah, yeah, November, forget that. That's Christmas season. Like they're just picking up from there. So you just end up Christmas drinks, or they're doing end of year wraps and stuff like that. So that tends to what happens. But yeah. So I want you to tell me more about you as a producer and your journey and how you got to where you are. Because you've worked on, you know, P Valley, you've worked on the Noah's Ark film, which is to be released, you know.
I don't know what Paramount is doing with that.
Which is a shame, you know. So it's like, so tell me about your journey. Like, how did you get into this industry?
So I started as a dancer. Believe it or not, I'm kind of stiff now, but I started as a dancer. I'm actually classically trained in ballet, several different form styles.
Wow.
Russian, French, Italian, modern, African, West and South, hip hop, of course, several forms of modern dance. So anyway, that's just kind of how I got into the world of entertainment and performance. My grandmother would always make me perform as a child at family gatherings. She would make me dance in front of people. I was a terrible dancer as a child, but it was very entertaining to them. So, and it's kind of sparked love. And I always say this, and this is so funny and so gay of me, but my biggest dance inspirations were Britney Spears and Janet Jackson. I was probably I always loved them, so I was probably about 10 or 11. And I saw, they both had concert specials around that time. And the performances were so amazing, like the costumes, the stage, the lighting. But I focused on their male dancers because I noticed they weren't just dancing the way I was used to guys dancing. Like they were doing at the time I said they were doing spins and twirls. I didn't know they were doing like turns and seconds and pirouettes and all that stuff. So I said, oh, if I want to dance for Janet Jackson or Britney Spears, I need to learn how to do those spins and turns and twirls and things. And so I'm a country boy. I'm a farm kid, you know. I'm out there like farming, hunting, fishing, that stuff. There's nothing around.
I'm just thinking about that crocodile story you had. But anyway, that's another time, guys.
Yes. So there's nothing around, you know, and fast forward a couple of years later, my mom comes home with the newspaper. A lady had moved to our area, I mean by an hour away, which is still considered our area. And she'd opened a dance studio. I think she'd moved here from Atlanta or somewhere. And I said, oh, I want to try that. She's like, I don't know, we'll see. So it takes another couple of years. I end up, I'm like ninth grade by this time. I'm in the Upward Bound program. I don't know if you guys have something like that, but it's like a college prep program where they kind of like give you advanced academic courses, prepare you for college, the real world. Again, this is I still got to travel like an hour away to do this, but I kind of got, it's a scholarship like program. So they pay for all of your expenses to do these experiences. They take you to Washington, D.C., other places, you visit colleges, whatever. So anyway, during the summer, one of the components of their academic curriculum is drama. So a theater teacher came in, dance teachers, voice teachers, and they want us to have a well-rounded experience. And so we get like 6 weeks of classes, and then at the end we put on a performance. And so that just kind of reignited that fire for me. And after that, I was like, okay, I've got to learn more about this stuff. So again, I asked my mom, hey, remember that dance studio we saw? She's like, yes, I really want to try this now. And so one day we just go just to check it out. I was like, I can't make any promises. I don't know anything about this world, but we'll see what it is. I walked in and it was like the lights from heaven were shining down on me and everyone was just in awe. They were like, can we help you?
Oh no.
So I mean, they were just stunned. And I think I learned later, there was kind of a nervous hopefulness about it because it was an all white studio full of girls. And they wanted a guy so badly because they couldn't do partner work. They couldn't do lifts. They couldn't do any of the classical ballet variations. There was so much they couldn't do. And they were a competition studio, which means they were also limited at what they could enter in these regional and national competitions. And so when I said, yeah, I would like to see, about classes, everyone was like, oh my God. Like all these older white ladies who were like sewing costumes are like, oh man, oh my God. So from then on, they're like, oh, come in and take classes and see if you like it. And I'm like, okay, what's the price? So just come in and take a class and see if you like it. And if you like it, we can talk about it later. Came in and took classes for a week. They loved it. And well, they loved me. And they offered me a full scholarship. So I got to train for free. And that's pretty much the story of my entire dance career until I got professional level. Every studio I went to, because I was in the South, they gave me a scholarship because they wanted male dancers. And it was especially rare to see a Black male dancer. So I was a novelty item to them. And I knew that even at that young age, and I took advantage of it. I got free trips. I went to all these competitions and I won a lot of competitions actually. So long story, but that's essentially how I kind of got in. There's a natural progression. There was a National Geographic production, Surviving the Super Twisters, that came and filmed in that same town where the dance studio was.
I know that documentary. Yeah.
Yeah, so I was in that because they were doing reenactments of this like freak tornado storm that came through the Southeast, in the 70s. And it came through that area. So they used like the local hospital. I saw an ad in a newspaper. I went. I got a part in it. Most of it was cut out, but I was still in it, so it was very exciting. So there was this big write-up in the newspaper that came on the heels of me winning my first 2 dance competitions and qualifying for this national competition in Orlando, which was a whole other adventure, which was crazy. And yeah, there were like all these newspaper articles coming out about me at the time. And then it just went from there. My dance teacher was like, yeah, you've got something. We've got to get you like more in the arts. Like we've got to get you in TV and all that. So that's just kind of like how it happened.
That's crazy. So you went from dancing and being in front of the camera to then being a producer. So what was that shift? What made you want to not be in front of the camera and, really kind of push putting them everything together, basically?
So 2 things. One, low self-esteem. I started to doubt myself and my abilities. That's part of the reason why I stopped dancing. That's a whole other story for a whole other time. And 2, I realized I was better at telling people what to do.
Okay.
So
okay.
And people say, "Oh, you're so bossy, you're so this, you're that," but they would also say, "But you're right, though." So, and I just have this way of doing things that I feel like makes sense and is more efficient than what I see a lot of people doing. That could be a little egotistical of me, but the shortest point between 2 distances is a straight line, right? So when I see people going in zigzags, I'm like, you don't have to do that, right? We can just do this instead of this. So that kind of led into it. And then I knew that would be the natural progression for me. I knew I couldn't dance forever. Even choreography, I knew I wouldn't do that forever. I could kind of hop into that into my 60s, 70s, maybe just consult. Consult as far as movement, But as far as being too active and physical, you can't do that forever. And I
Mm-hmm.
also know that during the golden age of Hollywood, when Hollywood was first being built, your first
Mm-hmm.
directors were choreographers.
That's
That
true.
used to be the
Yeah.
natural progression.
Mm-hmm.
Once you retired from dancing, you instantly became a director because everyone understood that no one knows storytelling at that time better than dancers and choreographers, because we know movement, we know storytelling, we know angles and framing. That's all part of the dance, right? And this is before you had film schools to teach
Mm-hmm.
theory and all of that stuff. So I kind of want to reclaim that because that's been taken away. A lot of dancers, choreographers, they would love to go into those things, but they've been railroaded from doing it. And now I'm loving people like Jamaica Craft. I don't want to bring up the name; he's controversial, but Brian Freeman, not
Oh
Brian, another
yeah, I forgot
person.
about him.
They're all, they've all,
Mm-hmm.
dipped into the directing field, and I love that. Sean Bankhead now is even getting into directing, and I love that because that was part of our, craft. So I'm loving that we're
Mm-hmm.
reclaiming that now. So that was another reason I kind of wanted to do it. I saw other people starting to do it again, and I knew that from my
Mm-hmm.
dance history classes. So I want to kind of reclaim that. And it's all storytelling. And I've always wanted to tell stories. Like, I'm not a one dimensional person. So whether it's dance, whether it's theater, film, television,
Mm-hmm.
I'm into it all. So let's do it all.
Yeah.
And what really sparked that was working on the second season of P Valley. I developed a pretty good relationship with one of the co-executive producers. Her name's Nicole. And she and I were talking, and she was giving me all this advice. She's like, I know you want to do other things, so I really want you to go for it. Make sure you read Save the Cat, because I know you want to write. I know you are writing, but if you want to sharpen your writing skills, read Save the Cat, read these other books, you know. And I asked her one day, I said, "What do you think about me being a producer? I'm kind of considering that." She's like, "Yes, please do it. We need more Black male executives."
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, "Huh." And in that moment, having those conversations, I realized that I'd already been producing, like, some of these other projects I was working on that never got to see the light of day. Some theater projects I worked on with people that were hugely successful. Everything I was doing fell under producer. I just, at the time, I didn't really realize that. The last theater production I worked on, everything I was doing, I was like, I would really like an associate producer credit, at least because of what I'm doing. And they're like, cool, whatever, because they were calling me the logistics manager or whatever. And I was like,
Mm-hmm.
that's an associate producer.
Mm-hmm.
And because, again, I was making sure everything happened the way it needed to happen.
Right.
People were in
Right.
place. We had what we needed. I
Mm-hmm.
was calling in a
Mm-hmm.
lot of favors at the time from contacts and people I knew. And it was an amazingly successful show. But again, it was one of those situations where ego, we were about to go on a national tour with it. But ego and jealousy and lies, and it just fell
Mm-hmm.
apart. I'm trying to hold everything together, like, guys, come on, we got to work this out. But
Yeah, 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 yeah.
so yeah, another long story, but that's kind of how
Mm-hmm.
I jumped onto the producing train. And after we wrapped P Valley, that second season, I was like, yeah, this is what I really want to do, because I was brought in on that show in a much lower capacity. But I started doing a lot of things that were above what I was brought in to do.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, so I almost said something, but yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I think that may have rubbed some people the wrong way.
Mm-hmm.
I was just there to make a good show. I was there to do whatever I could to help.
Mm-hmm.
Because I love the show, and it's a hugely successful Black show with a budget that most Black shows do not get, will never see, could never hope to see.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, that just fueled that bug. Like, I want to make stuff like this. I want to be involved in all parts of creating amazing, massive art pieces of art like this.
Yeah.
And so it's like, yeah, this is what I'm doing, writing, producing, and then
Mm-hmm.
maybe a little bit directing here and there. But yeah.
Mm-hmm. Love that. So, how would you compare the Hollywood scene to the Atlanta scene? Because, Atlanta is a hub where, especially Black actors can go to kind of get their foot in the industry before they decide to maybe like transition to New York or LA and stuff like that. And, that's something that I've been talking about on my platform, that we in the UK, we need to kind of have more of that, but we need investment, brands
Right.
and sponsorship and stuff like that. Yeah, we want to do it ourselves, but we need money.
Yeah.
So, like, how do you compare the different industries, and what makes Atlanta so special, where it's been like the hub of Black film and TV now, especially, and also in the music industry? Like, so what kind of makes it kind of special in your eyes, especially after working on so many productions as well?
Black people.
Mm. Exactly.
That's just really. I'm sorry. Like nothing against anyone else, but we have a sauce, a special magic that if you've seen Sinners, you know.
Okay.
Um, right. Well, we just have something special that people want. They want to emulate, they want to duplicate, they
Yeah.
want to profit off of. Even if they don't like us, they
Yeah.
want what we have. And Atlanta has a high concentration of that. Even as you said, back to the music scene. There was a time when I was into music. I was writing songs and then doing things like that. Like I have a very extensive musical education, which is something people don't know. From 6th grade to 12th, I was in music theory classes every year. I played tenor saxophone. I could sight read like nobody's business. You know, I haven't done it in a while, but in college, I took some music production classes. So I was on the boards, making tracks and doing melodies and harmonies. Haven't done it in a while, but it's still in there. So I spent a lot of time when I moved to Atlanta in 2013, I was getting ingrained in the scene here, trying to figure out my space, maneuvering. I'm at dance studios, which I didn't really fit in well because there's a whole other mindset with dancers here. At least there was at the time. There wasn't that togetherness that I was used to coming from, super racist Alabama. The black dancers stuck together. Even if we didn't like each other, we stuck together. There was a camaraderie here. It was every person for themselves. There's a lot of competition.
Yeah.
It just didn't feel like my vibe. Plus, dealing with low self-esteem at the time, that wasn't a good fit for me. But, I still did what I could. I still traveled to Alabama and other places and choreographed for studios while I'm trying to ingrain myself here. But I got involved in the music scene somehow. My mentor, I think, he became friends with a music studio owner through his connection with Oprah. He's friends with Oprah, believe it or not, which is weird. Going to dinner with him and Oprah called him like, "Hey, Linnell, what are you doing?" Oh, shoot, I said his name. But anyway, everyone, if you know me, you know who he is. So
Okay. Yeah.
it doesn't matter.
Okay.
So and their connection is world famous. It exploded on Twitter years ago. But anyway, we would go to these listening sessions at music studios, and people like T-Pain would be there. Like all these big artists would let us like preview their music before it came out. There are songs that I hear now on the radio that I'm like, dang, I heard that like 5 years ago, and this was for another artist, but this person has it. So I would be in these circles and these, and also people in the film industry would also be there. Terry J. Vaughn, who has this new show on Netflix coming out, she would hang out there. She was friends with that studio owner. A couple of the Braxton sisters would be there, Trina, Tawanda. So I would see them quite often at the studio, pool parties together. So all of those entertainment worlds always just kind of mesh together here in Atlanta. I think Atlanta is that entertainment melting pot. I think in LA it's a little bit separate, where you have this is the film and acting crew, this is the music crew, and they'll come together for some parties or some events. But I think a lot of it is kind of separated, the way I see it. But here, everyone swirls together, especially in the black circles, because everyone knows everyone, and you need music for film. So everyone just works together, for whatever they do. And long story short, that's what makes it magical. We have an innate need and sense of community that a lot of people don't have. I think, or I won't say a lot of people, but other people don't have. And I think even though we have our issues with each other, black on black crime, we all find a way to come together, right? So I think that's the difference between here, LA, and New York. And in Hollywood is Atlanta. Like, let's not be fooled. Let's not get it twisted. It's not just LA. It's not New York. It is Atlanta. And I'll tell you why. Working with so many people on so many different projects, and even higher profile people who are from Atlanta or lived in Atlanta, they'll tell me they didn't get an agent until they moved to LA or New York. They didn't get representation. They didn't start getting bookings. But almost every last one of those bookings sends them right back to Atlanta. So it's funny. I was speaking with one actress on the set of P-Valley, and she was telling me that story. And then she's told this publicly, so I'll say it, Gail Bain. She told me, she said she didn't start getting really big bookings until she moved to LA and got an agent. But then they started sending her back to Atlanta. She said, I did not get booked in Atlanta until I moved to LA and got an agent out there.
That's so interesting.
It's very interesting. So it's like you go out there, but you always come back home.
And that's what I love. I think Black people are very resilient, and Black people kind of set the tone for things. Like, I think I've seen a lot of discourse from like people from different cultures and ethnicities and races, and I had to unfollow somebody who I really liked them as a content creator, but they were saying stuff like, well, if you're not Black or white, it seems like they don't care about like the Asian community within the creative industry. And I had to unfollow because it's just like, you're complaining about a marginalized group being showcased. No, that's not what it is. We've actually had to work hard and we've not said no. Whereas in some cases in other communities, you guys are very passive and so you haven't actually knocked down that door, you know? And
Yeah.
so when you see something like Sinners outdoing expectations, you know, that's because we show up and we understand the stories that we want to tell. And that's what it is. So that's what creates the hub of that. And once black communities really show the worth of like the black US dollar and over here the black pound, that's when all of these companies start coming in. And people don't understand the concept of that. They just think that, oh, well, Tyler Perry did it. Yes, Tyler Perry did it. But now he has everyone running to him because he built that. And so you have to do that. And so what I keep trying to tell, like, on my platforms is like, okay, we have these stories in the UK. However, we're showing up and telling you we need this, but you're still not believing in the market because you're not pushing it out to the masses for them to see that. Word of mouth is what has helped Sinners, for example, right? We know that's a black film, right?
Yeah.
I'm very happy that I saw it in America before I came back home to UK. And like, it was great to be in that space for everyone to understand the history and the story and get that kind of reaction, especially when it's telling, yes, it's a fictionalized story, but it's not at the same time, you know? And that's what kind of makes it good. And so word of mouth spreads, and then next minute, everybody else is talking about it. And then every single race is going to see it because, as far as they're concerned, it's a good film. So they take away the fact that it's black people and that, oh, it's not for us. And that's what I need people to understand. If you say you don't see color, then go watch every single film that's released.
Exactly.
That
And
makes
it's
sense.
interesting you say that.
Mm-hmm.
I was surprised by the number of white people in the theater when I went to see it. They weren't like overwhelming, but I was surprised to
Mm-hmm.
see them there. And I sat next to two older
Mm-hmm.
white guys listening to their take on it. And I agree with what you said. And I don't mean to offend anyone, but you're right. Asian people can be very passive. And also, Asian people love to placate to whiteness. That gets you nowhere. You have to be unapologetically yourself. Like all this eyelid surgery, lightening your skin to look
Mm-hmm.
whiter,
Mm-hmm.
doing the whole whatever they're doing, like the Asians that were in the lawsuit against affirmative action. Look how that hurt them.
Yeah.
Now, Asian enrollment has
Go
dropped
back.
faster in colleges than any other group because
Mm-hmm.
of that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Stop trying to placate to whiteness. It
Mm-hmm.
gets you nowhere.
Mm-hmm.
You have to be loud and unapologetically yourself, and you have to fight for what you want. And that's something black people know all too well. We know how to survive. We know how to make
Mm-hmm.
a way out of no way,
Mm-hmm.
you
Yeah.
know? And so you're right. Sinners did hit close, to home for me, because I saw myself in that world. My hometown was not so far removed from that growing up. Like I tell people, we're
Yeah.
trapped in a time bubble. Is very out of sync with
Mm-hmm.
time, and to see those people there living together, the black people, the Asian people,
Mm-hmm.
the white people who are a little segregated but still there. That's my hometown. We have two sides of my town. One town is called the white folks quarter and the black folks quarter. They're still segregated to this day.
Yeah.
Most of the white people have died out, but they keep to their side of town. We keep to ours.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone knows.
Mm-hmm.
Black people only went there when they needed manual labor. But also, I'm part Irish, you know, and I have Asian ancestry as well. And there's a whole history in that film that touched me because people don't know that before Irish people were considered white, which didn't happen until the 50s around that time, they were in the same category as us. So they were forced to live with us. Same with the Italians, same with
Mm-hmm.
the Asian immigrants that came over, 100 years ago. So there's a whole rich history of Black, Asian, and Irish and Italian mixing
Mm-hmm.
in the southern United States, from Louisiana to Mississippi
Mm-hmm.
to Alabama and
Mm-hmm.
Georgia. But people forget that now.
Yeah.
And if you
Mm-hmm.
can claim, if you're light enough to claim whiteness now, you do that and you
Mm-hmm.
distance yourself from the
Exactly.
blackness. Yeah.
And I love that you touched on that because that's also like in the UK. So when we had like the Windrush movement where when they invited like the Irish and the Caribbeans and Africans to come to the UK after the Second World War and we all kind of integrated more in the UK, they shut out the Irish and the blacks, people were trying to get homes and they were trying to get places to live so that they could work because they came and were nurses. They were driving the buses. They were doing all the plumbing and manual labor, which none of the people were doing here. They needed help rebuilding the economy, but yet they were shut out from everything. And they would say stuff like, we don't want no dogs, no blacks, no Irish. So they all bonded together. Same like what you're saying, but now obviously it's broken down and then it's not the same. But that's how everyone was treated as other, even though they looked exactly like them just because they had a different accent, you know? And so that's why I love stories like that. And that's why I think these executives need to continue to think outside the box, because we want to see original stories. It's not, oh, Sinners has been a success, so let's commission loads of stuff similar to Sinners. No, that's like what happened with Get Out. Get Out was amazing. Now they did like 100 duplicates and they're all crap because they're trying too hard to do what Jordan Peele did, when what Jordan Peele did was very specific. And it was only because of his creative genius. You need to go and find other creative geniuses who are pitching you stuff outside the box. And I want the industry to unlearn that. That's not how the market works. Okay.
You're absolutely right. And I have stories about that I can't tell quite yet, at least until some projects come out.
Oh, okay.
But I think one of the worst things that ever happened to Hollywood, and that's eventually led to its current state, is that we let Silicon Valley in. Once we let the tech bros in, it all went to hell, because these executives, they only see numbers and dollar signs. And honestly, most of them don't have a creative bone in their bodies. A lot of them have never been to a set, but they're up there calling the shots and raking in all of the money that we should be rightfully getting, right? But once they let these Silicon Valley tech bros in, who promise them these advanced AI programs that could predict all these algorithms and trends and help them make billions of dollars based on what these trending data say, it all went out the window.
Yeah.
Like everything, they just threw the baby out with the bathwater at that point. They were like, oh, numbers, data, money. But I'll say this, I won't say what. There's a project I worked on where there was a big plot line that was going to be very interesting. I really wanted to see how that played out. And during the first week of filming, execs came in from on high. Oh, our data shows this. Our numbers are trending towards this today, and we don't think our audience will like that. So scrap. Mind you, this is a major plot line that goes throughout the entire project, and it had to be scrapped on the spot.
Yeah, because they're the ones funding it. They're the ones putting it, so you have to do it. Some people may be watching this and say, well, I would tell them no. Yeah, then your thing wouldn't get made. They own the rights to it. So they would just fire you, hire somebody else to do it, and do what they want. You know, so you're just going to do it.
Exactly. And I think, and speaking of that, the funding and things not getting made, I want to double back to Ryan Coogler, because I have this thought that we're lucky that we have Sinners, right?
Yeah.
Because there's a high chance that it may have never been made. Because he refused to back down. He had his list of demands and stipulations. And when people didn't want to, meet him where he was, he walked. He walked away from several deals from that film until Warner Brothers finally came to the table and said, okay, we'll play by your rules. I think that's what we have to do. When you have a proven track record, even if it's with a short film, when people see what you can do and you know your worth and your value, you stick to your guns, because eventually they're going to circle back around, because they want what you have, because they know you're how they're going to make money, because they have no talent themselves. They've never written a damn script. They've never directed anything. They've never produced anything. They're producers in name and title only because they have the purse strings.
Exactly.
They have no talent. So they're always going to circle back around once things start to dry up.
Exactly. And I think when you have proven yourself, like Ryan Coogler has done with Fruitvale Station, Creed, Black Panther, so he had the proven track record and knows how to tell the story that he wants to tell, whilst also catering to what the audiences want, and that's what I really like about him. And I think now he's reached a place where he's like Jordan Peele, where they can just write him a check, and he can do whatever he wants to do. And that's why I love the deal that he has got, where, after 25 years, he's going to own all the rights to Sinners. And I think that's great. People, they were all like, oh my gosh, this could mark the end of the industry and what we're going to do. You're not going to be fine. You're not going to actually be fine. Okay.
No, it's not the end of the industry. It's the end of these white, old male executives grifting people. That's what it is.
That's what it is. Exactly.
I know people now who have worked on very successful shows in all capacities, writers, producers, directors,
Mm-hmm.
actors, and they're out there driving Uber right now. These are known people, names,
Mm-hmm.
and some of them are either have, since the strikes, have been living off these massive credit card limits they have, or they're out there doing DoorDash and driving Uber.
Yeah.
It's real. And when you see them pop out on the red carpet, they're
Mm-hmm.
going right back to the drive for Uber and DoorDash. And it's
Exactly.
so crazy that, especially here in Atlanta, people often think I look like Michael J. White. I don't see the resemblance at all. But
Michael J. White.
yes,
I
I don't see
know.
it at all, but I
Okay.
get it.
I feel like I
I
should put a
get it at
picture of
least.
Michael J. White there so they can see.
Please do, especially when I had hair.
Uh-huh.
People thought I was him all the time. We
Uh-huh.
look nothing alike. So, but before I came over, I'm hustling, right? Because we pay for this project out of pocket.
Uh-huh.
I'm working and I'm doing DoorDash on the side. People
Uh-huh.
thought I was Michael J. White. They're like, it's hard out here. I know some actors that are doing this. They really thought I was him. They thought Michael J. White had fallen on hard times and he was doing
Oh,
DoorDash.
stop. Oh
No
my
lie.
gosh.
I was like, I am not that man.
Oh my
They would
goodness.
not believe me. It was crazy.
That is crazy. But I did want to ask you, what was it like for you, like, as a black gay man, working on something like Noah's Ark, the new film, what's gonna be coming out eventually? Like, what was it like for you to kind of be in such an iconic work on such an iconic, show, and they had the film, Noah's Ark, wedding, like 20 years ago. What was
Yeah,
it like
jumping the
for you to
broom.
Yes, jump in the broom. That's it. Yeah. Like, what was it like for you to be able to work on something what was so revolutionary for its time, especially like in the early 2000s when that came out?
Yeah. So when the day we wrapped that film, I made a post in my stories and I was very vague, but I just said the project I just finished is a full circle moment for me. And my younger self is so happy right now. And that's exactly how it is.
Uh-huh.
I remember when Logo first launched, in 2004, 2005, the Logo Network, I was sneaking, like, sit up late at night and see what was coming on there because I was,
Uh-huh.
couldn't deal with the
Uh-huh.
parents at the time with the whole thing. I was like 15 at the time, 14,
Okay.
15.
Right.
So I think the first thing I saw on there that showed Black queer representation was the ski trip by my dearly departed friend, Maurice Jamal. He passed away a couple of years ago. But then Noah's Ark came, and I would sneak and watch it late at night with the volume all the way down low while my parents were asleep. I was like, okay, I just solidified it. I'm moving to LA. I'm gonna like have
Mhm.
these amazing friends. I'm gonna like be in the entertainment industry. I'm gonna be a, something like Noah, writer, director, something.
Yeah, yeah.
And
Uh,
so never thought that one, I would be in this circle of people years later. And then even further down the road, so this is 2005, 10 years later, I'm well acquainted with Patrick Ian Polk at this time. I know Daryl Stevens at this time. I think I've met him and maybe a couple of other people. And then a few years later after that, here I am on the set of this movie. Never thought. So it was just
uh-huh.
wow. First of all, this Noah's Ark was a cult classic, right? Who would have thought that it would still be churning out content 20 years later,
Mhm.
Not
Oh,
consistently, but still. And there's enough of demand for it. There's enough interest that the studios see, hey, we should green like this.
yeah.
So
Yeah.
it was an amazing, amazing experience. And I really can't put into words what it did for me on a spiritual level.
Uh-huh.
That because the freedom that I wanted at that age that I saw these characters having on the screen, I now have. And
Uh-huh.
I get to contribute to bringing their stories to life once again.
Uh-huh.
Like, who does that? Like, how many of us think our childhood favorite shows, we're going to be a part of 20 years
Yeah.
later? Like,
Exactly.
that's a very, very rare gift. And so
Exactly.
that's another
Exactly.
thing I honor. It was amazing to work with
Uh-huh.
these people who I admired and I looked up to. Again, I've known Patrick Ian Polk for probably 15 years at this point, like on a
Wow.
personal level.
Uh-huh.
So when he called me about this, I was like, what? Are you serious?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Mm.
So, and it's funny, I had a brick and mortar business at the time and I was
Mhm.
preparing to close it in a few months. And when I got that call, I said, oh, yeah, this is a sign.
Mm.
Next week, I was closed. I was on set.
Mm.
And then the strikes happened a few months later, and then life.
Mm. Yeah.
but
Yeah.
but yes, back to Noah's Ark.
Mhm.
It was a magical experience.
Mhm.
as with anything, you have your hiccups and your headaches, but
Yes.
bringing that to life and then doing it with so many other people who are around my age who also watched the show and looked up to it. Like there was a group of us that were like, this was our blueprint for like what we thought our adult lives would be like on that set, and we were just in awe and so honored to be able to bring this to life. And I can't wait to see it. I can't wait for the world to see it. If we ever get to see
Paramount,
it, Paramount
hurry up,
LTV, what we doing?
okay? Because this was announced years ago, so like, hurry up.
We filmed this at the end of 2022.
Ridiculous.
It is
like,
now 2025.
I'm talking to Paramount. Hurry up. Okay, people want to see this. What are you waiting on?
Exactly.
So I love that. I love that so much. So I wanted to ask you as we wrap up, like you mentioned, like, how you were doing like, DoorDash to try and like come and like, make fleeting moments and stuff like that. And, it was a real year-long process, like, because like
people to feed.
Yeah, like exactly. It's like because Casey had reached out to me like in January last year. I remember, and then we had a chat and we got on very well. And then she was like, "Oh, I know some guy called Tao." And then you guys had met at like the Black Queer Summit through GLAD, like maybe a few months prior. And so I was like, "Yeah, please bring all the people we need," And I had coincidentally met Anita before a couple years prior because she went viral on TikTok about like this 2000s nostalgia art exhibition she did. So I went to see it. So it was just all like, full. God has this way of doing things, So to kind of bring us all together. So like, was that your first time self-funding a project? And like, how was that for you in that regard as well?
To my first time self-funding a project to that extent, yes.
Okay.
Most of my other projects before it wasn't as much money, or it was coming from me anyway, or I was able to call in a lot of favors that I made over the years. But this one I had no favors to call in. I had no favors in London. So yes, for the record, I will put this as my first time having to self-fund a project of that magnitude, because it was not cheap. It wasn't a Hollywood budget, but we had to make some things shake. And even calling in favors, your favors, we still had to come up off some scratch. So.
And we paid everybody on our set. Just like we didn't get paid, but
we did not get paid
everybody.
At all. Everybody got paid. Everyone was fed well, and food is expensive, and especially for me, because coming from the U.S., I lost money. Because of the conversion rate to pounds. So I was spending way more money than I anticipated.
So, and I think it was great to do like a first international co-production, it for myself as well. And not a lot of people are able to do stuff like that independently and have ownership of the film. We all have ownership of it. And I think that's great. And I think that's great as just like Black people across the diaspora that, we love each other. These are my brother and sisters, okay? Right. Out in the US, and this vice versa. So I think that was really cool. So outside of Drift, what do you have like working on as well?
So I'm developing a few projects. I think some I've told you about. A couple of sitcoms I'm looking at. I'm developing right now. I'm doing rewrites for a feature film. It was not originally my project, but I was brought in to kind of give notes, and giving notes kind of turned into me doing a rewrite for it. It's something I'm excited about, and something I'll probably be talking to you about in the future.
Okay.
So I'm excited about that. And I have two series of my own I want to bring to life that I'm writing right now. One is a fantasy centered on Black people. So don't say I'm copying Ryan, because I've been working on this since 2016.
Okay.
And the other is an action crime drama.
Okay.
So
nice.
Those are things I have in development, and I'm currently writing, reaching out to my contacts, trying to see what I can make happen soon. Until then, I'm hoping Hollywood gets its stuff together so I can get back on the set and get some major project money so I can funnel that back into my projects.
Exactly.
So that's where I am right now, just writing, developing, so that I could hopefully be ready when the doors of opportunity open.
Nice. Okay. So where can people find you to like see your previous work, to stay updated on like what you're doing as well?
IG is probably the best one. So if you want to find me on Instagram, it is TAO_FI. I also have a Blue Sky that I'm not as active on, but I'm trying to get better about it because I'm trying to get away from Twitter. Twitter was really big for me for a while. I'm not calling it X because not,
Correct.
but that was really
Correct.
big for me for a while, and I had a lot of content up there, but I'm slowly like going through and getting rid of that. So yeah, find me on Instagram, TAO _FI, and that's the best place to keep up with me and what I have going on right now.
Nice, nice. And I'm sure I'll see you very soon at some point in 2025, either in ATL or if you come back to London for whatever we're working on. So, you know, we have a lot going on. So it's
Absolutely. Yes, we do. I'm excited, and I'll be glad when we can talk about some of these things.
Yes, exactly,
We're
exactly.
brilliant. I'm sorry. I'm just going to put it out there. The four of us are
Uh-huh.
brilliant.
Yeah.
We are, and the world better get ready. That's all I'm going to say.
Exactly. Exactly. Well, guys, thank you for tuning into this week's episode. You can follow me all on my usual socials. You know them. There's a bunch of them. And stay tuned for the episodes coming soon.